Following his victory over Makoto Shishio, Kenshin's days were once again spent in the Kamiya Dojo. There are times when Kenshin pays a visit to the Meiji Police Training Center in order to offer some guidance. From this point on, the Kamiya Dojo is collaborating with the Meiji Police Training Center in order to construct a powerful police force that is capable of assisting the populace. It looks like the Meiji government is in a quiet state right now, but Kenshin doesn't know that the Meiji government is slowly in danger because the Shanghai China Mafia has started a plan to destroy the Meiji government. The head of the Shanghai China gang is actually Enishi Yukishiro, who is Tomo Yukishiro's younger brother. After the death of Tomo Yukishiro, Enishi Yukishiro strayed off to China. His objective in China was to improve his strength in order to exact revenge for the murder of his sister. Enishi placed the blame for Tomo Yukishiro's passing on Kenshin. Enishi fought to stay alive and train fighting. He then started to take down members of the Shanghai Chinese Mafia one by one, and is now the big boss of the Shanghai Chinese Mafia. Enishi's intention to avenge the death of Tomo Yukishiro is unknown to Kenshin, who is now in the meantime. Kenshin is still engaging in his typical activities. It was observed that Kenshin, along with Keiru, Yahiko, Megumi and Sanosuke, were eating dinner together at Akakibo Restaurant, which is a well-known beef restaurant in Tokyo. Enishi began to target Kenshin at the Akakibo Restaurant in order to assassinate Kenshin. He instructed his men, who were named Kurojinami, to set fire to the Akakibo Restaurant. After that, Kurojinami launched a bomb attack on the Akakibo Restaurant. The entire Akakibo Restaurant was instantly destroyed, and fires were spreading throughout the restaurant. Enishi had a strong desire to murder Kenshin, and he did not care about the lives of the other individuals who were present in the Akakibo Restaurant. Kenshin, Keiru, Yahiko, Megumi, and Sanosuke had already left the Akakibo Restaurant, thus they were safe. However, the attack on the Akakibo Restaurant resulted in the loss of many lives. Soon after, Kenshin received the news that the Akakibo Restaurant had been set on fire. Kenshin, who was aware of the origin of the attack from the top of the hill, promptly checked up the hill. Right away, Kenshin and the Meiji police led by Uemura went up the hill to find the person who did it. When they got to the hill, though, they didn't find anyone there. All they saw was the words human judgment. Kenshin had done something similar before. Kenshin killed a lot of people in the past as a way to punish the shogun's power. He did this because he thought that heaven's punishment had never happened. After then, Sito Hajime says that the person who is responsible for the terrorist assault that took place at the Akakibo Restaurant is a member of the Shanghai Chinese Mafia, and that this is most likely connected to Kenshin. Kenshin tries to think of someone who would like to get even with him. Suddenly, someone yelled for help from outside the Kamiya Dojo. It was a police officer from the police training dojo, also known as the Maikawa Dojo. The police officer requested that Kenshin come to Maikawa Dojo as soon as possible since, at that location, many people from Maikawa Dojo had been beaten by an unknown individual. Sanosuke and Kenshin rush to the Maikawa Dojo right away, but on their way there, they meet another police officer who tells them that Inspector Uemura is no longer at the Maikawa Dojo. After hearing that, Sanosuke asked Kenshin to go to Uemura's house. The enemy at the Maikawa Dojo will be dealt with by Sanosuke. When Kenshin arrived at the Uemura residence, he was greeted by a dreadful scene. Within the Uemura residence, there had been a massacre everywhere, and a great number of individuals had been killed throughout the residence. Odawa Hyoko, a member of the Shanghai China Mafia, is the person responsible for this crime. Inspector Urashima was almost killed by Odawa Hyoko, but Kenshin quickly stopped him. Kenshin then fights Odawa Hyoko to halt his brutality. Finally, Kenshin eventually won the battle against Odawa Hyoko. However, after losing the struggle with Kenshin, Odawa Hyoko did not give up without a fight. Instead, she carried out her final plan, which was to blow herself up in order to cause Kenshin and the entire Uemura family to perish on the spot. Kenshin and the Uemura family were fortunate enough to survive the explosion, but, in that moment, the entire Uemura mansion was completely destroyed. In the meantime, Sanosuke felt that he arrived late to Maikawa Dojo. This was due to the fact that when he arrived at Maikawa Dojo, he found that many individuals in Maikawa Dojo had already been injured, including the Maikawa Dojo master. It turned out that Inui Banjin, one of the former warriors hired by Takeda Kanryu, was the one responsible for the beating that occurred in the Maikawa Dojo. Inui Banjin has now joined Enishi Yukishiro in the Shanghai China Mafia organization. After saving the Uemura family, Kenshin returned to the Kamiya Dojo. Kenshin was met by someone he knew on his way back to the Kamiya Dojo. Kenshin came to the realization that the person in question was Enishi Yukishiro, who was Tomo Yukishiro's younger brother. Even though they have not seen one another in years. At the time, Enishi stated that he would exact revenge on Kenshin for the death of his sister, Tomo Yukishiro. Enishi will not only take Kenshin's life, but he will also cause the individuals who are in Kenshin's immediate vicinity to suffer. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the Meiji police are now using Sawajeijo-chu as a spy. Sawajeijo-chu was given the mission of discovering the location in Japan where the Shanghai China Mafia group was headquartered. Following his defeat at the hands of Kenshin and subsequent detention by the Meiji police, Sawajeijo-chu volunteered his services as a spy for the Meiji government. Sawajeijo-chu's reconnaissance revealed that the Shanghai Mafia is now based in Yokohama. In addition to Enishi Yukishiro, who is the supreme leader of the Shanghai China Mafia organization, there is also a wealthy millionaire by the name of Wu Haixing who is located inside the headquarters of the organization in Yokohama. Enishi Yukishiro and Wu Haixing have reached an agreement that states that once Wu Haixing assists Enishi in exacting revenge on Kenshin, Enishi will pass over his authority as the head of the Shanghai China Mafia to Wu Haixing. After giving it a lot of thought, Kenshin ultimately made the decision to reveal to Kaoru, Yahiko, Megumi, and Sanosuke the history of Kenshin's scars as well as his history with Tomo Yukishiro. Everyone didn't detest Kenshin now that they knew his past. Kaoru recognized that Kenshin was still feeling harmful about the death of Tomo Yukishiro, despite the fact that he had previously advised him not to let his past weigh him down. Yahiko, Megumi, and Sanosuke would give Kenshin some time to be alone himself so that he can settle his mind. Masao paid Kaoru a visit a few days later, and during that visit, Masao shared with him that a few days prior, she and Aoishi had met a monk at the Suikoji temple. That his late father still preserved the diary of Tomo Yukishiro, who had been Kenshin's wife before she died away, was told by the monk. Masao was requested by the monk to deliver Tomo Yukishiro's diary to Kenshin to be returned. Masao believed that Kaoru was the one who deserved to have the diary that had been given to him by Tomo Yukishiro. This was due to the fact that Masao was aware that Kaoru was the only lady who was valuable to Kenshin and the woman that Kenshin loved at this time. Immediately after receiving information from Sawajeijo-chu regarding the location of the headquarters of the Shanghai Mafia organization in Yokohama, Sito Hajime and his men made their way to Yokohama in order to apprehend the Shanghai Mafia organization. However, when Sito Hajime and his men arrived in Yokohama, they discovered that the location that they had believed to be the headquarters of the Chinese Mafia in Shanghai was actually a trap hidden there. It turns out that Sawajeijo-chu is a traitor. He does not genuinely surrender to and support the Meiji government. It appears that he still has resentment toward the Meiji government, and at the present time, he is supporting the Shanghai Chinese Mafia organization in their efforts to overthrow the Meiji government. As soon as Sito Hajime learned that it was a trap set by the Shanghai Mafia organization, he promptly withdrew his troops from the area. In the meantime, Enishi Yukishiro and the Shanghai Chinese Mafia start carrying out their plan to bring down the government of Meiji. Enishi gave the command for Kurojinami and Inui Banjin to begin assault the citizens of Tokyo from the moment they arrived. They began to explode and set fire to several places in Tokyo. Along with Kurojinami and Inui Banjin, there was another Enishi subordinate fighter named Yatsu Mumioi who helped assail the people of Tokyo. On their trip back to Kyoto, Aoishi and Masao met members of the Shanghai Mafia organization, who were tormenting the citizens of Tokyo. Aoishi fought alongside Yatsumiumoi to prevent further harm. Masao, who was accompanying Aosihai at the time, assisted in fighting the Shanghai Mafia organization. Hearing that the Shanghai Mafia was attacking Tokyo residents and the Meiji government, Kenshin moved right away to stop the attack. Kurojinami and Kenshin then met and fought. While this was going on, Enishi suddenly emerged somewhere else, specifically at the Kamiya Dojo. It is possible that he wanted to find Kenshin. Only Sanosuke, Keiru, Yahiko, and a few pupils from Dojo Kamiya were present at that moment, and Enishi was unable to locate Kenshin that time. The moment Sanosuke knew that Enishi was an enemy, he started fighting him right away. That being said, Sanosuke quickly lost the fight with Enishi Yukishiro. At the same time, Kenshin finally beat Kurojinami, who was fighting with him. Following his victory over Kurojinami, Kenshin quickly went to the Kamiya Dojo to ensure the safety of his friends. When Kenshin got to the Kamiya Dojo, though, it was in bad shape, and all of the students looked like they were hurt. Sanosuke also looked like he was hurt and couldn't do anything about it. Kenshin is informed by Yahiko that Enishi has taken Keiru away. After that, Kenshin headed straight to a location that was rumored to be the headquarters of the actual Shanghai China Mafia organization. When he arrived, he was greeted by Inui Banjin and Yatsumiumoi, in addition to a large number of Enishi's men. After that, Kenshin drew his sword and quickly began a battle against the Shanghai Mafia organization. During the course of the conflict, Masao and other members of Oniwabanshu came to Kenshin's aid in order. Not only did Oniwabanshu come to assist Kenshin, but Seto Hajime and Sanosuke did as well. They requested that Kenshin go inside and save Keiru as soon as possible, and they pledged to keep all of the adversaries outside. Right away, Kenshin went deeper into the offices of the Shanghai China Mafia. But when Kenshin went deeper, he was stopped by Wu Haixing and his men, who were prepared to shoot Kenshin with guns. Kenshin was able to escape. With his quickness, Kenshin quickly escapes Wu Haixing's attacks. Then, Wu Haixing told his men to surround Kenshin right away. He also called on the samurai who used to be Juppangatana to help him beat Kenshin. Kenshin was shocked to see that Wu Haixing had called up Seto Sojiro as a warrior to fight him. Actually, after Seto Sojiro and Shishio were defeated by Kenshin, Wu Haixing took advantage of the circumstance and wanted to take advantage of Seto Sojiro. With confidence, Wu Haixing tells Seto Sojiro to kill Kenshin right away. But Wu Haixing was shocked by how Seto Sojiro acted. Instead, Seto Somio turned to help Kenshin. Sojiro Seto genuinely pretended to be one of Wu Haixing's guys. After being defeated by Kenshin, Seto Sojiro thought that he wanted to become a traveler like Kenshin and would live like Kenshin did. Seto Sojiro tells Kenshin to go straight to the Shanghai Mafia organization's base to save Keiru and beat Enishi. Seto Sojiro is ready to block the enemy from getting in. Then Kenshin went inside right away to save Keiru. As soon as Kenshin arrived, Enishi Yukishiro was waiting for him. Enishi told Kenshin that he would quickly carry out human judgment on him for killing Tomo Yukishiro and killing many others. Then Enishi pulled out his sword. It was clear that he and Kenshin would fight. It was a very tough fight between Enishi and Kenshin. Enishi was very strong and used a style of fighting that was a mix of Chinese and Japanese techniques, which made things hard for Kenshin. Tomo Yukishiro's death still makes Kenshin feel bad, but he also knows he has to live for the people he loves. So Kenshin kept striving to survive and stop Enishi. In the fight against Enishi, Kenshin started to rise up and change the tide. Although Kenshin started to hit Enishi, he started to fall down, but that didn't make Enishi give up on killing Kenshin. His anger was still burning before Kenshin's blood put out his thirst for revenge. After afterward, Enishi rose again to fight Kenshin. Kenshin did not evade Enishi's attack, rather, he welcomed it in the hopes that it would put an end to Enishi's desire for vengeance against Kenshin. Enishi felt as though something was amiss with him after successfully toppling Kenshin. Enishi had the impression that Tomo was speaking to Yi, telling him that what he was doing was incorrect. A gun went off at that same moment, and Wu Haixing fired it. As it turns out, Wu Haixing wants to get rid of Kenshin and Enishi right away so they won't be a problem to him after he takes control of Japan. It was fortunate that Kaoru was able to prevent Wu Haixing from carrying out his plan to assassinate Kenshin and Enishi at that moment. At that moment, Kaoru was able to break free from Enishi's hold on him. Prior to that, Kaoru had been confined to a chamber by Enishi. A moment after Wu Haixing's attempts to assassinate Kenshin and Enishi were unsuccessful, he swiftly changed the direction of his shots to Kaoru. Anyone who stands in the way of Wu Haixing's ambition to control Japan will be put to death by him directly. However, the surprising thing that took place was that Enishi really deflected Wu Haixing's shots that were directed at Kaoru with his own body. Enishi had the impression that he saw his sister's form in Kaoru. Then, Enishi dropped Wu Haixing with the intention of killing Wu Haixing immediately after. However, Kenshin and Kaoru attempted to stop Enishi since they did not want him to get his hands filthy again. As a result of the downfall of Enishi and the Shanghai Chinese Mafia organization, the new era and the Meiji government of Japan have been saved. Enishi was then taken into custody and held by the Meiji police after that. When Enishi was incarcerated, Kuroro mailed Tomo Yukishiro's diary to Enishi. Kuroro did this in order to convey to Enishi the extent of Tomo Yukishiro's affection for Kenshin. It is stated in a diary book that Tomo Yukishiro used to have a strong desire for vengeance against Kenshin for the death of her fiancé. However, as time went on, Tomo gradually changed her mind about Kenshin, becoming highly impressed with him and eventually falling in love with him. Tomo Yukishiro thought that Kenshin had given many people hope, so the killing he did in the past wasn't just his fault. Tomo Yukishiro stated at the conclusion of her diary entry that she would take care of Kenshin even if it meant she would have to sacrifice her own life. When Enishi finished reading Tomo Yukishiro's diary, he was unable to contain his feelings of sadness any longer, and tears began to trickle down his face. Enishi was sorry, it was only now that he recognized his misunderstanding of Kenshin. Kenshin held Kaoru's hand in front of Tomo's grave, making it look like he was introducing Kaoru to Tomo Yukishiro. After Tomo Yukishiro, Kenshin will remain a protector of Kaoru for the rest of his life. Kenshin views Kaoru to be the most precious woman for him, both now and forever.